11,000 years ago, northern Africa was a sprawling, vibrant savanna. Nomadic tribes hunted across miles of green grasslands and massive lakes. But around 5500 BCE, the Earth's axis shifted just a fraction of a degree. That microscopic tilt pushed the monsoon rains out of Africa entirely. Lakes turned to mud, and the vegetation burned away under the sun. Stripped of their hunting grounds, the surviving nomadic tribes had no choice but to walk. Pushed eastward by drought and starvation, these climate refugees trudged through the expanding wasteland until they hit a massive, continuous flow of fresh water, the Nile. The foundations of the Egyptian empire were laid by these climate refugees, forced into a single fertile valley where they had to master the river or vanish. At first, the Nile offered terror alongside its water. Every year, the river swelled into violent, uncontrollable floods, drowning miles of land and sending the new settlers fleeing into the surrounding hills. When those floodwaters eventually receded, they left behind a thick layer of black, fertile silt washed down from the Ethiopian highlands. If wild seeds fell on this dark mud, fresh grain sprouted in days. Humans noticed the pattern. Using basic stone and wood tools, they began carving shallow channels from the river to the floodplains, building mud walls to trap the receding water and keep the soil soaked for weeks. By engineering the water flow, they stopped following herds. The tribes built permanent huts along the banks, and the harvest yields exploded. They produced so much wheat and barley, they had to dig massive underground silos to store it all. This surplus of grain served as a safety net against tomorrow's starvation. It was the first true concentration of wealth in the region, one that guaranteed survival, but immediately required protection. The scent of thousands of tons of stored grain drifted into the desert, drawing the attention of starving tribes still fighting for survival. Violent nighttime raids on these early farming settlements became frequent. To protect the silos, the scattered villages needed an organized defense. Around 5,000 years ago, a ruler named Narmer consolidated these settlements, merging Upper and Lower Egypt into a single fortified empire. To maintain the obedience of thousands of farmers, the ruling class established a new reality. The pharaoh was the only force holding the universe together, the direct link to the sun and to the rising river. This creates an immediate vulnerability. When a pharaoh grows old and dies like any ordinary farmer, the illusion of their divinity disappears. If the public sees their god decay, the authority of the empire fractures. The solution was a meticulous science. Priests extracted the internal organs, dried the empty husk for 40 days in a specialized salt, coated it in resin, and bound it in tight linen to indefinitely preserve the physical form. By keeping the king's body from decaying, the ruling class could point to a physical miracle, ensuring that the public belief in their immortal ruler remained as intact as the body itself. Preserving the body is only half the problem. A mummified king buried with gold requires a vault capable of withstanding both the elements and highly motivated grave robbers. Early kings were buried under flat mud brick mounds called mastabas, but wind eroded the mud, and thieves easily smashed through the walls to strip the dead of their valuables. The architectural leap happened when an engineer named Imhotep abandoned mud for solid stone. He stacked 6 massive tiers on top of each other, creating an artificial mountain that was designed to outlast time itself. Decades later, King Sneferu attempted a structure with smooth sides. His engineers attempted a 54-degree incline, but they miscalculated the crushing weight of the rising stone. The internal structure buckled mid-construction, forcing them to alter the angle to prevent a collapse. They analyzed the failure, adjusted their geometry to a shallower slope, and started over. The result was a structurally stable, completely smooth limestone monument. Through iterative engineering and costly mistakes, they solved the physics of heavy stone construction. They had the exact blueprint required to attempt the largest building project the world had seen. Pharaoh Khufu ordered a new tomb, towering nearly 50 stories high, constructed from 2.3 million individual stone blocks. The inner core used local limestone, but the king's chamber required solid red granite, found 800 kilometers south in Aswan. Engineers floated the massive blocks downriver on heavy wooden barges directly to the Giza plateau. Once on land, teams hauled the blocks on wooden sledges. By constantly pouring water on the sand directly in front of the runners, they reduced friction by half, allowing humans to pull the immense weight. Despite the sheer volume of material, the precision was absolute. Without compasses or satellite technology, the engineers leveled a 13-acre base and aligned the structure almost perfectly to true north. The Great Pyramid stands as the result of a centralized state coordinating 20 years of massive logistics, relentless labor, and applied geometry. But Khufu's impregnable fortress contained a design flaw. A 500-foot monument in the middle of a flat desert acts as a signal to every criminal in the ancient world exactly where the empire's gold is buried. When centralized power waned, looters broke through the massive granite seals and stripped the pyramids bare. Fearing further desecration, subsequent pharaohs abandoned the visible pyramid and took their dead deep into desolate, heavily guarded canyons. These secret tombs largely suffered the same fate. But in 1922, an archaeologist named Howard Carter spent years meticulously excavating the valley floor, searching for a tomb the looters missed. He found the burial chamber of Tutankhamun, a minor king who died young. His cramped tomb was packed with over 5,000 artifacts, golden chariots, weapons, and a pristine death mask forged from 22 pounds of solid gold. If a minor king required 5,000 gold artifacts for his burial, the original contents of the Great Pyramid represent a level of wealth that is now lost to history. Yet modern science suggests the pyramids may hold secrets beyond physical treasure. When researchers mapped the coordinates of the 3 main Giza pyramids, they noted a remarkable alignment with the 3 distinct stars of Orion's belt. To investigate the internal mysteries, the 2015 Scan Pyramids project deployed custom micro-robots to navigate deep inside the structure. They crawled up 8-inch wide shafts that no human has accessed in 4.5 millennia. This image from the probe shows where the cameras hit a dead end, a smooth stone door fitted with copper pins. Meanwhile, advanced thermal imaging detected massive, unexplained voids hidden deep within the pyramid's solid limestone core. We still do not know what lies behind those doors, or what sits inside those empty spaces. The architecture refuses to yield all its data. By engineering monuments so complex that they require cutting-edge robotics and particle physics just to map their interiors, the ancient Egyptians secured their ultimate objective. Thousands of years after their empire faded into the sand, they command the attention of the modern world.